have a report today, very interesting, showing that the tide is turning on immigration out of Mexico, with the number of those arriving now equaling the numbers of those leaving. That is a dramatic shift.
Exactly, yes. I mean, it basically suggests that the end of Mexican immigration, the greatest wave of immigration to the United States in modern times, has come to an end.
And give us in the context of when this wave began. I mean, this was really back in the 40s when guest workers were coming to the U.S. That is really when this influx began. Just sort of walk us very quickly through the history that led to this shift.
Well, I mean, actually, what first fueled the Mexican population boom in the U.S. was the end to circular migration, when Mexican men returned home to their families every several months. The guest worker program, called the Bracero program, was in force between 1942 and 1964, and during that time, hundreds of thousands of Mexicans moved between the two countries to work in, railroads and on U.S. farms. But when the Congress ended that program in 1964, that, coupled with tighter border enforcement, compelled Mexican men to bring their families to the U.S. and thus, the population of Mexicans in the United States began to grow and grow.
And now, Miriam, walk us through some of the forces now that have sort of zeroed out and led to this net migration, migration stat. What is happening in Mexico in terms of, are there more jobs? Why are people returning back there more than they have in the past?
Right. Well, there are two things that are happening. People are returning in larger numbers than they did in the past, but they're also not as incentivized to come to the United States in the first place. One important factor is that Mexican families have fewer mouths to feed, as the birth rate has declined to near replacement level, or about 2.1 there. The other thing is that there are more job opportunities back home than in the past. So, if people can get work at home and avoid having to cross the treacherous border between Mexico and the U.S. and face all the dangers that could entail, they will just stay put.
And what about the price in terms of illegal immigration? What about the price of smuggling? I think it's charged by some people called coyotes. Is that correct?
Exactly. Coyotes are the human smugglers who are hired to guide folks, namely through the desert, to sneak into the United States. The price has gone up to several $1,000s as a result of the increased border enforcement by the United States government.
Has led to that as well. And
right.
Miriam, help us put this in the context of the Supreme Court will begin this week hearing on this Arizona immigration law, this very tough and controversial law in Arizona. What do these new stats mean in the context of Arizona's law, and whether it is actually current with what's actually happening on the ground now?
Well, I mean, there are some scholars that believe that, since we've turned the page in terms of migration from Mexico, much of that being illegal, that the Supreme Court case, is kind of ironical, as are a spate of laws being passed by states in the United States concerning, illegal immigration and measures to try to stop it or curb it. I mean, we've had a break in Mexican migration to the United States, and, the Supreme Court is reviewing the most controversial anti-illegal immigration law in the country, Arizona's, which was designed to drive these people away. Well, there are fewer coming, and some demographers suggest that we could have a labor shortage in the future.